Christmas dinner at my grandmother Evelyn Carter's mansion was always an event. Crystal chandeliers sparkled above a table long enough to seat 30 people, and every year my relatives treated it like a royal gathering. My grandmother was one of the wealthiest women in the country, worth billions, and everyone spent the evening trying to stay on her good side. I sat quietly near the end of the table, sipping water and listening to my cousins brag about promotions, vacations, and luxury purchases. I never joined those conversations. Unlike most of them, I had built my own life without relying on Grandma's fortune. 5 years earlier, when I was 25, she had surprised me with something no one expected. On Christmas morning, she handed me the keys to a beautiful house overlooking a lake. "Merry Christmas, Daniel," she had said. I nearly cried. The house changed my life. I no longer had to rent tiny apartments or move every year. I spent months fixing it up, painting walls, replacing floors, and making it feel like home. Or at least, that's what I believed. Now, 5 years later, Christmas dinner seemed normal until Grandma suddenly tapped her glass with a spoon. The room fell silent. "I have a question," she announced. Everyone looked toward her. Her eyes settled on me. "Daniel." I smiled politely. "Yes, Grandma." She tilted her head. "You're still living in the house I bought you?" The question sounded innocent enough. "Of course," I replied. Then she asked the sentence that froze my blood. "Then why did I receive a property tax notice showing another owner's name?" My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. The room became silent. "What?" I whispered. Grandma placed a document on the table. I thought it was some clerical mistake. "But according to county records, that house no longer belongs to you." Every relative turned toward me. I felt heat rush into my face. "That's impossible." Grandma pushed the paper across the table. "Read it." My hands shook as I picked it up. The owner listed on the property wasn't me. It was my Uncle Richard. My heart dropped. Richard sat 3 seats away. Suddenly, he looked very interested in his wine glass. I stared at him. "Why is your name on my house?" The room exploded with whispers. Richard cleared his throat. "Well, there's a reasonable explanation." "Then explain it," I said. His face turned pale. 5 years earlier, after Grandma gifted me the house, I had been overwhelmed by paperwork. I remembered signing documents during the transfer process. A lot of documents. Too many documents. At the time, Richard had offered to help. "Real estate paperwork is complicated," he'd told me. "I'll make sure everything gets filed correctly." I trusted him. Apparently, that was my mistake. Grandma's expression hardened. "Richard," he sighed. "It wasn't supposed to become a problem." "A problem?" I repeated. "You stole my house." Several relatives gasped. Richard immediately raised his hands. "Stole is a strong word." "Then what word would you prefer?" Nobody spoke. Finally, Richard admitted the truth. Years ago, while helping process the paperwork, he had quietly inserted additional documents transferring ownership into his name. He assumed I would never notice. Because I was already living there. Because property taxes were automatically paid through an account he controlled. Because nobody checked. For 5 years, he had legally controlled the home I believed belonged to me. I felt sick. My cousins stared at him in disbelief. "You forged documents?" one asked. "It wasn't exactly forgery," Richard muttered. Grandma slammed her hand onto the table. The crystal glasses rattled. "Don't insult my intelligence." Nobody had ever spoken when Grandma used that tone. Richard immediately shrank into his chair. Then he made the mistake that destroyed him. I figured Daniel didn't really need ownership anyway. The room went silent again. "You figured?" I asked. He shrugged nervously. He was already living there. "I was just protecting family assets." "Family assets?" Grandma's eyes narrowed. "You mean my assets?" Richard said nothing. Grandma slowly stood. Even at 82 years old, she commanded the room like a queen. "Tell me exactly how much income you've earned from the trust accounts connected to that property." Richard's face turned white. "Mother, how much?" No answer. She looked toward her attorney, who happened to be sitting at the dinner table. "Yes, Grandma brought lawyers to Christmas dinners." "Michael." The attorney opened a folder. I anticipated this conversation. Richard looked terrified. Michael adjusted his glasses. "Based on our preliminary review, approximately $3.8 million has been diverted through associated investment accounts over the past 5 years. The entire table erupted. 3.8 million? You stole millions? Are you serious? Richard looked ready to faint. But Grandma wasn't finished. She turned toward me. Daniel, did you know any of this? No. Not a single detail. None. She nodded slowly. Then she faced the attorney. File everything. Richard stood abruptly. Mother, wait. No. You don't understand. I understand perfectly. The attorney closed his folder. I'll begin proceedings tomorrow morning. Richard's wife started crying. His children stared at the table. For the first time all evening, nobody seemed interested in Christmas dinner. Grandma walked around the table and stopped beside me. She placed a hand on my shoulder. Daniel. Yes. I owe you an apology. I looked up. You gave me a gift, she continued. I should have ensured nobody could take it from you. Grandma, none of this is your fault. Maybe not, but I'm fixing it. She returned to her seat. Then she delivered one final surprise. Michael. Yes. Transfer ownership of the lake house back to Daniel immediately. Of course. And prepare paperwork for the Aspen property as well. The room gasped again. Even I was stunned. Grandma, what Aspen property? She smiled. The one I was planning to leave someone trustworthy. Richard looked like he might collapse. Grandma continued eating as if nothing unusual had happened. Dinner is getting cold, she announced. Nobody touched their food. I sat there in disbelief. 5 years earlier, I thought Grandma had given me a house. Tonight, I learned someone had stolen it. But I also learned something far more important. While millions of dollars in properties mattered to everyone else at that table, my grandmother cared about one thing above all else. Trust. And in a single Christmas dinner, one son lost it forever while one grandson earned it completely. As snow fell outside the mansion windows, the future inheritance battle ended before it ever began. Not because I was the richest person in the room, but because I was the only one who hadn't tried to steal from family.